you ever felt as though the life you're living isn't truly yours? As if someone else, your parents, teachers, friends, or even society, has written the script for you. Deep down, there's a part of you screaming that something is off. Every day you wake up, put on the same familiar mask, carry out your duties, interact with others as though everything is fine. But when the world goes quiet, that unsettling question arises: who am I really? Carl Jung believed this feeling of disconnection is no accident. In fact, it signals a profound issue that few ever confront. Many people go through their entire lives without ever discovering their true selves, confining themselves to social roles, constructed identities and expectations imposed by others. The saddest part is that they accept this as all there is, passing through life without ever encountering their own soul. So the most important question emerges: is this happening to you? What you call yourself, your personality, your desires, your beliefs, how much of it genuinely belongs to you, and how much was implanted by others? From childhood, we're conditioned to fit in, to be accepted, and to hide certain parts of ourselves to earn love. In response, we create a mask, what Jung referred to as the persona, a social disguise meant to protect us. The more we wear this mask, the further we drift from who we truly are. Over time, this mask can become the only thing we recognize as ourselves. But Jung warned that living disconnected from your true self comes at a cost: anguish, dissatisfaction, and a persistent feeling that something vital is missing. Have you ever achieved something yet still felt empty, as though something essential is always just out of reach? That emptiness exists because what you truly need is not out there. It isn't in a better job, a perfect relationship, or the approval of others. It lies within you, buried beneath layers of conditioning. The critical question is, are you ready to explore your own psyche and uncover who you really are? This journey isn't easy. Discovering your true self means confronting everything you've suppressed, forgotten, or distorted over the years. It requires looking inward and facing parts of yourself you might prefer to ignore, but it's the only path to freedom. In this video, we'll dive into what Carl Jung called individuation, the process of becoming whole, integrating all parts of yourself, and ultimately living in alignment with your true essence. Are you ready? Let's begin. From childhood, you learned that to be accepted, you needed to behave in certain ways. Perhaps you were taught to be polite, never raise your voice, suppress anger, or constantly please others. Maybe you were told to always appear strong, hide weaknesses, and act confident even when doubts gnawed at you inside. Unknowingly, you began shaping an identity not entirely your own, one influenced by the expectations of the world. Jung called this the persona, the face you present to others, the version of yourself constructed to belong. And don't be mistaken, everyone has one. If you've ever acted differently at work, at home, with friends, or even on social media, you've felt the persona's influence. Is it useful? Absolutely. Without it, social life would be much harder. But danger arises when you identify too closely with this mask. You start forgetting who you really are. Think for a moment. How often have you said or done something just to fit in? Hidden your true thoughts out of fear of judgment? Smiled when you wanted to scream? This happens because at some point, the persona stops being just a role and begins to dominate your life. You're no longer a fully authentic individual, but a character performing a part you never consciously chose. The problem is that the persona can bring acceptance but cannot nourish your soul. It offers praise but not genuine fulfillment. Over time, living solely through your persona leads to an empty existence, where something vital feels missing, even if you can't put your finger on what it is. And the more you cling to this mask, the further you drift from your true essence. But if the persona isn't your true self, then who are you really? To answer this, we must turn to the other side of the coin, the part of you that has been suppressed and pushed into your unconscious. Jung called this the shadow, and this is where the real journey to discovering your true self begins. Be warned, What lies in the shadow isn't always easy to confront. Are you ready to explore it? If this resonates with you, click the subscribe button and support the channel. Thank you. If the persona is the mask you wear to gain acceptance, then the shadow is everything you hide to avoid rejection. But here's the catch: what you push away doesn't vanish. On the contrary, it grows stronger within your unconscious, operating in the hidden corners of your mind, subtly influencing your emotions, fears, and even the choices you make, often without your awareness. Jung described the shadow as the hidden side of the psyche, made up of everything that has been repressed over time: forbidden desires, contained anger, weaknesses you refuse to admit, and traumas you've tried to forget. And the truth is, many elements of your shadow aren't even bad. They are simply parts of yourself that, at some point, someone labeled unacceptable. Perhaps as a child, your curiosity was deemed inconvenient, and you learned to remain silent. Maybe you wanted to express anger but were taught it was wrong, so you swallowed your frustration until it erupted. Or perhaps you were sensitive, but society told you sensitivity was weakness, teaching you to hide your feelings. All of these denied parts didn't disappear. They retreated into your shadow, waiting for the moment to emerge. And emerge they do. If you've ever lost your temper and later regretted it, felt envy towards someone and tried to ignore it, or overreacted to criticism without knowing why, then you've experienced your shadow taking control. When left unacknowledged, the shadow can manifest in distorted ways, sabotaging relationships, careers, and self-esteem. Yet here's a truth few share: your shadow is not your enemy. On the contrary, it holds many of the most valuable aspects of your personality: your creativity, authenticity, and true strength. You cannot become whole until you integrate this part of yourself. To do that, you must stop running and start looking inward. But how do you confront something that has been suppressed for so long? How do you bring the shadow into the light without letting it overwhelm you? The answer lies in a central concept of Jungian psychology: the self, or the true self. This is exactly what we are about to explore. If the persona is the mask, and the shadow contains all that you have repressed, then the self exists beyond these layers. It is the totality of your psyche, the harmonious integration of who you truly are and the version of yourself you show the world. Jung believed that life's purpose is not simply to follow a path prescribed by society, but to become whole, to uncover your true essence, and to live in alignment with it. This process of self-discovery and integration is what he called individuation. But finding the self doesn't happen by chance. It doesn't appear magically one day like a sudden epiphany. The self reveals itself only to those willing to face the truth about themselves. You must actively seek it, and this journey requires a deep inward exploration. It is a confrontation with everything you've been taught to hide, and a reconciliation between your most authentic desires and the constraints imposed by the outside world. The biggest barrier to discovering the true self is fear. Fear of losing the identity you've built over the years, fear of realizing that many of your choices were never truly yours, and fear of confronting parts of yourself you've long denied. This fear prevents many people from ever finding the self. They spend their lives clinging to the persona, pretending to be someone they're not, while their shadow quietly operates behind the scenes, undermining their chances of genuine happiness. But when you start integrating your shadow and begin questioning the masks you wear, something remarkable happens. You feel a sense of freedom unlike anything you've experienced before. You realize you no longer have to pretend to be someone you're not. You understand that you don't need to constantly please everyone around you. You start making choices that feel true to yourself, not just ones that meet others' expectations. And here's the most fascinating part: the closer you get to your authentic self, the more life begins to make sense. The anxieties and frustrations that once seemed random or inexplicable begin to reveal their roots. You start to understand why certain patterns keep repeating, why some situations affect you so deeply, and why certain relationships never worked out. You realize that all along, something within you was trying to guide you, but you were too busy trying to fit in to notice. There's an important point to note. The journey to the self cannot be traveled alone. There's a crucial element often overlooked: the unconscious mind and the archetypes that shape how we think, feel, and behave. Without understanding these hidden forces, you cannot fully comprehend who you are. And that is what we will explore next. The human mind is far more than what we perceive consciously. Much of our psyche operates at a deep, invisible level. Jung believed that discovering the true self requires more than examining rational thoughts and daily choices. We must explore the depths of the unconscious. It is there that the hidden patterns forming our identity reside. But what exactly lies in the unconscious? Beyond your shadow, beyond repressed memories and unrecognized desires, there is something even more fundamental: archetypes. Jung discovered that the human psyche is not a blank slate. On the contrary, we are born with universal mental structures, patterns of thought, emotion, and behavior shared across all cultures and times. He called this the collective unconscious. From this collective unconscious, archetypes emerge, primordial images that shape how we perceive the world and ourselves. If you've ever felt drawn inexplicably to certain stories, myths, or symbols, it's because archetypes are at work within you. They appear in fairy tales, films, religions, and most importantly, in your dreams and daily behaviors. For instance, the hero archetype exists in virtually every culture, representing someone who faces challenges, overcomes obstacles, and pursues transformation. There's also the wise one, symbolizing knowledge and introspection, the rebel, who challenges rules and questions authority, and the caregiver, who dedicates themselves to protecting and serving others. The intriguing part is that you don't consciously choose which archetypes influence your life. They operate within you without your awareness. Problems arise when you identify solely with one archetype and ignore the rest. If you see yourself only as the hero, you might feel constant pressure to be strong, unable to accept vulnerabilities. If you live exclusively as the caregiver, you may spend your life prioritizing others while neglecting yourself. Finding the true self involves balancing these archetypes, recognizing which dominate your life and integrating those that have been neglected. How do these archetypes show up? Through your dreams, your impulses, and recurring patterns that you might not consciously understand. Ignoring them means neglecting essential aspects of yourself. This is why many people feel lost. They don't realize invisible forces shape their desires, decisions, and even existential struggles. Here's the most important point. If you remain unaware of these archetypes, they control you. They influence your behavior, insecurities, and relationships. But if you recognize and integrate them, you reclaim authority over your own story. This is what distinguishes those who discover their true self from those who spend their lives trapped in automatic patterns. But what happens if you ignore all of this? What becomes of someone who refuses to explore their unconscious, resists the path of individuation, and continues living behind masks and illusions? The answer lies in the psychological suffering experienced by those who flee from themselves. This is the danger of non-individuation, and it's what we will examine now. What happens to someone who spends their life avoiding self-reflection, neglecting their shadow, remaining trapped in a persona, and refusing to acknowledge the archetypes shaping their destiny? Carl Jung was clear. Avoiding individuation does not protect us. Instead, it condemns us to a fragmented existence, filled with anxiety, frustration, and a persistent emptiness that nothing external can ever fill. Many people believe that following society's rules and fitting in will guarantee a peaceful life. But that sense of tranquility is only superficial. Eventually, something starts to go wrong. It may show up as emotional crises with no obvious cause, feelings of dissatisfaction even when life appears perfect, or psychosomatic illnesses. The mind and body always find ways to signal when we stray too far from our true nature. Non-individuation can also reveal itself through destructive patterns. Have you noticed how some people repeat the same mistakes throughout their lives, enter abusive relationships, sabotage their own achievements, or live in a constant state of discontent. This happens because when we ignore what is hidden within, we become prisoners of our own unconscious. It finds ways to express itself, even if that expression comes through suffering. Another common sign of non-individuation is the sense of merely existing without truly living. This often appears as a monotonous routine, a life without purpose, a feeling of drifting along without direction. This is the reality for millions who have never questioned whether the life they lead is genuinely their own. They follow inherited patterns, imposed beliefs, and external expectations without ever pausing to ask, does this truly make me happy? Perhaps the most dangerous consequence is resentment. When a person ignores their true self, anger inevitably arises. But they often don't know where it comes from. It may be directed outward, blaming the world, the system, their family or society for their suffering, or it may turn inward, manifesting as depression, self-sabotage, and a profound disconnection from one's own life. Yet there is a way out, a way to break free from this invisible prison. The key lies in courage, the willingness to confront the truth, to challenge one's own illusions, and to pursue individuation. This path is not easy. It demands strength, determination, and the readiness to look inward, even when what we discover is uncomfortable or unpleasant. And now we arrive at the pivotal question: what does it truly mean to be yourself? What is it like to live without masks, without repression, without fearing the judgment of others? What changes when you finally discover your true self? Let's explore this in our conclusion. Finding your true self is not a destination, it's a lifelong process. It doesn't happen overnight, as if one morning you simply wake up fully aware of who you are. It's a journey filled with discovery, deconstruction, and reconstruction. It's a path of confronting your shadows and liberating yourself from the masks that society has imposed upon you. And it's a path that very few choose to walk. Most people cling to the safety of conformity. They hold on to their personas because they fear rejection without them. They avoid looking at their shadows, afraid of what they might uncover. They overlook the archetypes, guiding their lives because admitting their influence would mean acknowledging that they are not entirely in control. But this fear comes at a price, an existence that feels empty, lacking authenticity, depth, and true meaning. Jung taught us that genuine freedom is not found in fitting in. It comes from becoming who we truly are. This means embracing your wholeness, both your strengths and weaknesses, both your light and your darkness. It means taking authorship of your life rather than merely being shaped by your environment, culture, or the expectations of others. In essence, it means stepping out of the role of puppet and becoming the author of your own story. But this path demands courage. Courage to release the illusions that have felt safe for so long. Courage to face your own fears and insecurities. Courage to accept that you may not be exactly who you thought you were, and that's perfectly okay. Because now you have the chance to become someone greater, more authentic, more alive. So I ask you, are you ready for this challenge? Are you willing to question the narratives you've been told about who you are? Confront the parts of yourself you've repressed, and finally live in alignment with your true essence. If this video sparked reflection for you, share in the comments which part impacted you the most. Have you ever felt like you were living an identity that wasn't truly your own? Let's discuss it. And don't stop here. The next video is essential for deepening this journey and uncovering even more about the hidden mechanisms shaping your mind. Keep watching, because this path of self-discovery has only just begun.